Alright, first up we have some frozen beef patties, 2 cans of green beans, and some whole potatoes. I've always used canned sliced potatoes before. A nice thing about this dish is you have a lot of flexibility with what you want to put in it. Also, we have a whole onion. Again, previously I have used dried minced onions in like a shaker can, but this is what we have today. I also have some onion powder and some garlic salt and some cayenne pepper. Also some fresh ground pepper and some regular salt. You're also going to need your aluminum foil. I recommend using a roll a little wider than what I have here, and you'll see why in a little while. Alright, now we're ready to actually start putting this thing together. You're going to want to take your knife, add a little bit of flair as you see fit, and start slicing up your potatoes. I started off going for rather thick slices, but then as I was going, I realized that these might not cook as evenly and get as good of a crisp on them, so I started going a little bit thinner. Alright, once all your potatoes are cut, we're going to scrape these off back into the bowl that they started in and make room for our onion. We're going to start by scoring through the skin all the way around the onion, not all the way through, and then we're going to do one big cut right down the middle of the onion. A second cut to quarter the onion, keeping the tip of the knife from going through the root. This allows us to take all the skin off the onion, which we definitely don't want ending up in our packet. Once the skin is off, work your way across the onion, making several more cuts in the same direction as your quarter cut, and then rotate the onion 90 degrees and chop, finally dicing it down. Once that's done, we're going to scrape all the diced onions into a bowl separate from the potatoes, because some of us, meaning me, absolutely despise onions, and I'm going to keep them out of my packet. Next, we're going to take our aluminum foil and roll it across our cutting board. I'm using the back of this knife to score the foil and cut off a piece. Take your meat patty, lay it down. Be sure to remove the paper. If you leave it in, it leaves a taste in the packet that tastes a lot like paper. Grab a healthy handful or two of potatoes and spread them out across the top of your meat patty. After the potatoes, we're going to grab a large pinch or a small handful of the diced onions and sprinkle them around the top. Next, I'm going to take my can of green beans, go ahead and open and drain. I'm going to take a large spoon and spoon out about half of the can. Next, we're going to take a little bit of garlic salt. Be careful, this stuff is very potent, don't add too much. Then we're going to add some regular salt, followed by the cayenne pepper and a little bit of the fresh ground black pepper. After all of our seasoning, I'm going to add 2 large pats of butter. If you're not a big fan of butter, olive oil is a great stand-in. That's it for ingredients. We're ready to start wrapping this thing up. So wrap up the 2 edges, meet them in the middle, and then start folding a seam down the length of the packet. After the seam, pat the edges down and start rolling. Make the tab about 1 inch wide and just roll up till you meet the ingredients. Repeat on the other side, and that's it for layer 1. We need our second layer, so roll out another sheet of tinfoil, cut, and then lay the packet on sheet number 2. Important little detail that I almost forgot, it's good to fold in and crush down any sharp corners on the first packet, otherwise they will punch a hole through the second layer. After that, the process is pretty much the same, just fold up the edges to the middle, fold a seam down, and then roll up your tabs on each end. And that is it for packet number 1. Just rinse and repeat that same process however many times for however many people you have eating with you. It's also fun to lay all the ingredients out taco bar style, and people can just make their own up to their own standards. If you're making multiple packets, it's good to have a Sharpie handy so you can write people's names on them so you keep them straight once they're in the fire. Let's write Jacob on this one. It's got onions in it. All right, we're down to the fire. Grab a pair of nice long metal grilling tongs, give them a couple spins and a couple clicks to make sure they're working, and let your fire burn down to a nice bed of coals. Alright, that was taking too long. We were hot and hungry, so I grabbed a shovel and started spreading out some of the larger sticks to smooth out a nice bed of coals for cooking on. Alright, once you have a nice, even, smooth bed of coals, go ahead and start gently laying the packets in. Burn your hand doing the first one too slowly and just toss the rest of them in there. After they're all laying down nice and even, set a timer for 7 minutes and sit back and enjoy the fire until that timer runs out. Once that 7 minutes is up, you're going to want to go ahead and start flipping your packets. Make sure you burn your hand a lot during this part. It's very painful. The coals should be nice and hot, and make sure you make nice and manly sounds expressing your pain while you're trying to flip them. Set a second timer for 7 minutes on this other side. This is a good opportunity to grab a paper plate and make sure the heat of the coals is staying nice and high. If it's too hot for your hand, I like to grab my metal tongs from before to grip the plate with and get those coals nice and hot. By now, the second timer should be up and it's time to start removing the packets. Try to use the tongs. For the first one, Jacob's gonna call you an idiot as you're screaming in pain, and he's just gonna get a shovel and remove the packets for you. Now, the proper way to eat one of these things is by sitting around the fire on which the packet was cooked. But for the sake of filming, we have come back up to our table here. Start unrolling the tabs on each end of the packet. This is where you'll see how important it is to roll this properly. You're going to want to tear each side about 1/3 of the way in, making kind of a T shape. Hold down the main body of the packet and just pull up. And if you had folded your packet correctly, it should just open up like a zipper. And this is why I said you might want to use a wider portion of foil here, because you could see that the packet was already starting to open up. It's good to have a multi-tool on hand because the second packet can be much hotter than the outside one. To be honest though, this one has had a fair amount of time to cool as we were walking back up from the fire, so I can just use my hands here, but that might not always be the case. Anyway, there is your finished outdoor cooking foil packet. You can see the potatoes have a nice golden crisp to them from cooking in the butter, and I gotta tell y'all, this thing was just delicious. If you end up giving this a try, leave a comment for us and let us know how it was. Let us know what you changed. If you like this sort of thing, click subscribe if you want to see more if you haven't already, and we will see y'all in the next video.